most done for you models, for example, if done properly, I'm not saying agency models because I'm not a big fan of agency models, but most done for you models, if done properly, should yield excess cash, and the issue becomes operational fulfillment, right? Which is how I prefer to have my bottleneck in the operations and scale than in demand generation. That is just my preference. Some people prefer it different ways. I prefer it that way. And so the easier something is to sell in general, which is going to require more handholding on your part, more services, more things, the easier it is to sell, right? On the flip side, if you just sell a course via webinar, it becomes very, very difficult to sell. In general, you have to have very, very high persuasive abilities in order to sell that, and a pretty unique opportunity, right? If you're selling how to run Facebook ads, I think that time has somewhat come and gone, right? And so the idea is, I would prefer to be on the easier to sell part of the spectrum, gain the experience, generate the cash flow, and then use the cash to solve future problems of scale. And I think that is a better sequence that has a higher likelihood of success for most people.
Stop investing in houses. There's something better out there for you, and that is investing in land. Hi, my name is Jack Bosch.
And I'm Michelle Bosch, and we are the co-creators of the Land Profit Generator Method.
Yeah, and I would say there's a huge assumption baked into that, which comes down to a really wildly uncommon opinion you have, which is on pricing. Because all of that assumes that you're going to have then excess cash and enough to deliver, and that it's priced right. So can you talk a bit more about pricing? Because I think for most people, we do what Dan Kennedy calls the WAG pricing model, which is just the wild ass guess, or the industry norm, right? Where you just go like, what does this person do? What does this person do? Great. I'll be somewhere in the middle or a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, so when we got into that, in our first coaching business, which was obviously Gym Launch, the highest priced person at the time was $5K. The lowest price people were kind of agencies doing $500 a month. So that was kind of the range of the marketplace. And so when we came in, our front end program was $16K. Our back end program was actually a 3-year $126K program. So the pricing was so vastly different than everyone else that it caused prospects to take pause and say, there must be something different going on here. Pause there. And then if you think about what a lot of people are seeing with the book, or at least I'm told, is that the book's kind of all over a lot of people's news feeds. Imagine you have this kind of pricing with all of this word of mouth that's surrounding it, and then it creates this allure, right? And so the idea is that we have to charge so much in order to get the clients and prospects more invested, because in a very real way, price confers value, right? So there's a story that's from the book, but it's basically, if you had 3 people try 3 different wines, the high price, the middle price, and the low price, and then rate them, most people rate the highest priced wine the best. But the thing is that when they do these studies, they actually make all 3 wines the same. And so in a very real way, price does confer value to your product. That's number one. Number 2 is that if you change the quality or increase the quality of your prospects, you will increase the quality of your products. So what I mean by that is, if I am working with somebody who's making $5 million a year, right? And then I give them a book, right, Dan? All of a sudden, that book to Dan is worth $2 million this year, right? If I give that to somebody who's never started a business before, the book might be worth some inspiration. And so there's a very real difference in the value that my product delivered based on the quality of my prospect, independent of the change in my product. And so the second point is that if you change and increase the quality of your prospects, you can also charge a concurrently higher price based on the value that is true that you were delivering to that person. The third piece is that I like having pricing power in general, because there is a strong strategic advantage to being higher priced. I just named 2 of them, right, in the marketplace. But one of the biggest ones is that you have so much more gross profit left over that A, you can spend more on the acquisition, but B, you can do things that other people can't. And so you further eliminate or separate yourself from the competition by being able to provide things that no one else can, right? So for example, in the Gym Launch world, because we had a lot of clients, or we still continue to have a lot of clients that are in the same markets, we were able to spend $50,000 a month every month on testing advertisements. And then we would just license those ads out to all of the facilities across, right? No one else could do that, because I had the spare cash that I could just put into marketing and then only hand scratch off lottery winners to them that they could just go and cash in, right? Because they already knew they worked. And so I could hire a team just to build all this stuff for them. And there weren't even franchisors at that time that were doing that stuff. And honestly, they still don't. And so we're able to still run a very high gross profit on even that product line. And so the idea is like, how can I do things that no one else can do? And the thing is I would start with the price first. Now, obviously it has to be based in reality in terms of the value you can provide, but a lot of times with the excess gross profit, you can, in a very real way, provide more value. And so that's why in the book, I like to anchor the pricing in the beginning, because that just kind of sets the stage. But then when we get into the value creation side of it, it's like, how can I make it so likely that they are successful How can I get them to be successful in half the time? And how can I do it so I can eliminate effort and sacrifice? And for those of you who don't know the difference between effort and sacrifice, effort is what someone has to do that they don't want to do, that they weren't doing before they started working with you. Sacrifice is when they have to stop doing something that they enjoy doing, that they were doing before they started working with you, that they can no longer do. And so the idea is, how can I eliminate the effort and sacrifice, cut the time in half, and then increase the perceived likelihood that they're going to achieve the result that they want? And so that was kind of the basis. I mean, in general, if there was one summary picture for the book in terms of how to create value, it's the value equation. And so the remainder of the book is basically the execution, the tactics around how do we actually do this? How do we create a dream outcome that's appealing to the person, right? Making $1 million for most men is more appealing than being more handsome. Not saying that they don't want both, but they probably want one more. And in a real way, a lot of guys would spend $500,000 to make $1 million, but probably wouldn't spend $500,000 to be more handsome. Or maybe they would, but it depends on their income, right? Perceived likelihood of achievement. I'll give you an example here. So if you guys were, if you had your, if for, I see a lot of guys on here, but if your wife were getting plastic surgery, or you were getting plastic surgery, whatever, right? And you have two surgeons that have the exact same, they're going to do the exact same surgery on you, right? The outcome's the same now. So I'm controlling for the outcome and showing you a different piece of the value equation. If one of them was about to do their first surgery ever out of medical school, and the other one was on their 10,000th surgery in their career, which of them would you rather work with? This one. Which one would you rather pay more? This one. You probably asked this guy to pay you because you were his first surgery, right? And so in a very real way, the perceived likelihood of achievement increases the value independent of the actual service being delivered. And so that is why it's the second thing. Now, most marketers focus all their attention on the top side of the equation. This is what I did for the first few years of my career when I was at my gyms, when I sold weight loss, and then even in the beginning of Gym Launch. It was all about how much money you're going to make, and then fuckloads of testimonials. How much money you're going to make, fuckloads of testimonials. But there are other ways to increase perceived likelihood of achievement, which is kind of goes back to that flash roll argument I was saying earlier, which is here are all the things that you didn't even think about that I have already handled on your journey that you didn't even foresee, which then shows my expertise that I know what I'm doing. And so the goal is to increase these as much as possible. Now, the second half of the equation are the detractors. In a very real way, in my opinion, the bottom side of the equation is actually more powerful in persuasion than the top side. And the reason is because it's very easy to make claims. It's very easy to talk about the dream outcome, right? But it's much more difficult to actually decrease the time delay, which is why for us, one of the major KPIs we've always had as a company is how much cash someone generates in the first 14 days working with us, right? And so for us, we drive towards that equation. And for us right now, for example, the average cash collected in the first 14 days is $15,500, right? For our client, that is the average, right? And so with that, I can have a big outcome in the first, 14 days. So they have a very short time delay between when they buy something and they begin to start experiencing the results, right? And so I'll give you a simple way of providing value. Look at what everyone else is doing in the market and do it in half the time, right? If all of a sudden, for example, as an extreme version of this, I would say, hey, I'm selling a weight loss product. I use weight loss because everyone understands it, all right? And as soon as you click this, you look at you pull your shirt up and you have a six-pack, right? You buy my six-pack program, you click purchase, and you have a six-pack immediately. How valuable would that product be?
Super
extraordinarily, right? And so the idea is we made the product more valuable, not by changing the outcome, not by changing the perceived likelihood of achievement, but by simply changing the time in which it took to achieve the outcome that was promised. And so
What the fuck? Where's the template? That's why. Okay. Oh shit.